Welcome in. It's the Joanna McNamee Show, presented by Appalachian Wireless. I'm Andrew Joyce, your host, joined by the head coach of the U-Pike women's basketball program, Joanna McNamee. 6-8 on the season, coming off a loss at a Bluefield, 73-61. Again, competitive on the road in the Mid-South Conference. And I know you kind of get a look on your face like, okay, I'm tired of being competitive. I'm ready for more wins.
Right. Yeah, it was, again, one of those games where we had every opportunity. Just we have these stretches sometimes where we have trouble scoring or stopping and let a team make a run on us in the second half, and then we don't really recover. And in that game, we did have a couple. Brogan ended up hurting her knee a little bit, so she couldn't get back out there. And
right.
We were kind of playing just seven players. It felt like, and they had a 9-man rotation. I think that we, for lack of better words, just looked tired there in that last few minutes and couldn't seem to spring back when they made a little run on us.
Right. I think the final 12 minutes of the game only scored 4 points.
Yeah, it was rough.
And is that just simply the depth that Bluefield just wore this team down?
Yeah. I mean, there's really, they did. I think they wore us down in that second half. And, we talked about that, and that's something we are trying to really work on as a team is getting each other remotivated when, basketball is a game of runs, and momentum swings constantly throughout a 40-minute game. And you have to make sure when momentum swings to your opponent's way that you make sure that momentum is short-lived. And when it swings your way, you try to make it last as long as possible. And that has everything to do with mentality and being excitable and those kind of things. That's what we've been trying to work on.
During the Christmas and New Year's break, Kelly Wells talks about it. It's a time that he can draw his team together, build chemistry, and teams take great strides during that time. Is that one of the most important times of the year for your team, opposed to the preseason? But during that break, when they're not in class, when you have a lot of time to get practice in, is that an important part of your coaching?
It definitely
philosophy?
It should be, and that's key to have players that love the game. You have if you can put a group out there like Coach Wells has of guys that just truly love the game, and that's what they want to do. So being on campus without school and just basketball, it's like the best time of your life because
Sure.
You don't have anything else to concentrate on, and you really get to perfect the game you love. And that's what we're trying to build too on the women's side, is getting a group together that just loves it enough, and once their passion is just to be great basketball players and be a part of something great.
How has the team responded during the break?
They've done good. Like I said, we're still building to that, though.
Sure.
To that mentality. I think, unfortunately, at times that we have players that maybe look at it as a chore to go to basketball practice,
right.
And we need to find that mentality where it's fun and
Absolutely.
where it's exciting.
6-8, back to conference play, and Lindsey Wilson at home this Thursday. Cumberland U on Saturday. We'll get a scouting report on those teams coming up a little later. We'll meet a couple of the ladies from the U-Pike women's program, and we'll step out and take a break and come back. We'll have highlights of the last couple of games. It's the Joanna McNamee Show, presented by Appalachian Wireless. We're talking U-Pike women's basketball when we return. Welcome back in. It's the Joanna McNamee Show, presented by Appalachian Wireless. I'm Andrew Joyce, your host. We talk U-Pike women's basketball, and we'll meet a couple of the U-Pike women players. Tonight in the Bears Den, Candace Porter and Kalisha Johnson of the U-Pike women's basketball team. Off to a 6-8 start, but got out of the gate very slowly and very competitive all year long. Looking to turn things around during this second semester, and of course back to conference play on the road at Bluefield, back in the Mid-South Conference. Every game is going to be competitive. A game that the U-Pike women led midway through the second half and just couldn't get the finish. That's what we're looking for Thursday against Lindsey Wilson, is to get that finish. and continue that run. Coach Joanna McNamee, I know a couple of players that are guests tonight. They've been key for this U-Pike women's team this year.
Yes, they have. They really, both of them have picked it up. Candace, for a freshman, you know, her last game, I think she played 39 minutes in that Bluefield game, and that's the first time that she, one, stayed out of foul trouble, but two, brought the energy for the entire game, and we really needed that. And she knows now that that's kind of what's expected from her the rest of the year. And Kalisha has really stepped up all year long for us as a dominating offensive threat. And you know, we need her just to maintain what she's doing, and hopefully everyone else picks it up around them.
Of course, Kalisha averaging 19 points, but she's had a couple of huge games this year. We'll take a look at some highlights now as we'll head back to Bluefield, the women in action against the Rams, and we'll get things started. Breaking the press, and one of the Lady Bears we talk about, Kalisha Johnson, right there gets the highlights started with a layup. Pressure again coming from the Lady Rams of Bluefield, and another one of our guests, there's Candace Porter. She lays it in. Good job early on by this team.
Yeah, we were really attacking them early on. This was, they're hitting a three-point shot, big three from Kalisha. She stepped up big coming out of the gates.
Well, just offensively.
Yeah, there's her taking a charge.
Nice defensive play there. Inbounds play, Kalisha. Boom.
Yeah.
Long range three off the left wing.
And that's Patrice driving and tossing it over to Cheyenne Madden inside.
Good teamwork there, and this team has shown signs that they can be a very good passing team.
Yeah, I think as long as we keep attacking, you know, and we keep going toward the basket, like right there, Courtney Haney going hard toward the basket. If we just attack, there's Kayla driving in, great finish, little step through move.
This is first half action at Bluefield, and the team does seem to be in a more aggressive tone at this point.
Right, right. You know, confidence is a big thing. There's Candace following up her own miss with a nice putback.
That's strong play in the paint there.
Yes.
That's what you've got to have night in, night out.
And there's Courtney Haney again on the elbow jumper.
In the second half now.
Cheyenne Madden sealing inside with a good finish and a good ball movement on the perimeter.
U-Pike with a 4-point lead. And we're about the midway point. Here's a nice steal defensively.
From Patrice,
And the
right
run.
to Lido. We call Kalisha Lido.
Lido on the run and rewarded for running the floor.
Kayla Day, strong take to the basket.
Bluefield has made that run now. It's
Right,
about
and
6-minute mark here in the game.
And again, we're still with them. We're only down 2, but it just seemed like we shut down right after that and just couldn't maintain any type of offense, you know. And that's one thing that Bluefield did have. They're really athletic.
Sure.
I mean, probably the most athletic team we'll see all year.
Right.
You know, Campbellsville is up there athletically, but Bluefield is even more athletic than Campbellsville. But where it was disappointing was I thought when we were playing quality basketball and attacking them and doing all the little things right, we were outscoring them and outplaying them. But
Sure.
as soon as they made that run, it was almost like we couldn't get that grit back in there to take it back at them.
If you notice the midway point in the second half, there were only 2 highlights following that because of that drought. Depth, an issue, can't be fixed overnight, and I know it will take time, but this team has enough depth that it can be competitive in the Mid-South Conference. I know that's what you're looking for.
Yes, absolutely.
Thursday against Lindsay and Cumberland U. We'll get a quick scouting report on those 2 teams when Coach Joanna McNamee returns. We'll step out, take a break, and when we come back, we'll step back into the Bears Den. We'll meet Candace Porter and Kalisha Johnson of the U-Pike women's team next on the Joanna McNamee Show.
Not even close to the end, it's just beginning. Life is getting lighter while the days are getting brighter. Yeah.
Welcome back in. It's the Joanna McNamee Show, presented by Appalachian Wireless. We talk UPike women's basketball, and we'll be rejoined by Coach Joanna McNamee in just a few moments, but we step into the Bears Den. My favorite part of any of the coaches' shows, no offense to Kelly Wells and Joanna McNamee, but I have an opportunity, and I think our viewers and listeners get a chance to meet the student athletes, and I think that's one of the best parts of this program is seeing the players off the court. We welcome in now a 5'9" senior out of Shelbyville, Tennessee, Kalisha Johnson. Welcome to the Joanna McNamee Show.
Thanks for having me.
Before we talk basketball, because we will talk basketball, we want to talk about the academic major of Kalisha Johnson and what your future plans may be.
My major right now is elementary education. Hopefully I get accepted into the teaching program and I can teach one day.
Any thoughts about coaching? When I hear of athletes that talk about going into education, that's one of the first questions that comes to my mind is, would you want to be a coach someday?
As of right now, no, that's not in my plan, but it could happen.
Education is a special field. It's something that many times when I talk with student athletes or students in general that want to go into education, there's been someone in their lifetime while they've been in school that's had an impact on them and said, I'd like to be a teacher like so-and-so. Have you had someone that's had that kind of impact on you that made you want to go into education?
Yes, in high school, one of my teachers, she was well known around the community and school, but she's the NHS provider, so she was like a great mentor, like she kept it real with us, so it just made me want to go into the teaching field and let people understand how important education is.
Sure, absolutely it is. And Kalisha, we'll talk basketball now. We'll talk about your playing career. When did you first play organized basketball, and when did you find the passion for it?
I got to start a year early because my dad was the coach, so I started when I was 6, but we weren't supposed to start till we were 7. But I played a bunch of different sports up until middle school, and I just stuck with basketball from there on out.
And, of course, basketball, you played for your dad. What's that experience like?
It has its ups and downs, but once I got to middle school, I had a different coach, so it was a different feel for it.
Right, and Dad becomes fan at that point.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's talk about your high school career and how Kalisha Johnson ends up at the University of Pikeville.
Well, my high school career, we were well known in our in the state of Tennessee, so that was a good school to go to. I ended up going to a JUCO called Montlow State. It was just not far from my house, and from there I ended up coming here last year.
And let's talk about how you arrived at the University of Pikeville. How did you learn about the UPike women's basketball program?
Our coach had, he's well known in the coaching staff, so he had a friend who needed some players, and he was just sending us out on different visits, and we ended up here.
What was your first trip to Pikeville like?
No one was here. It was during the summer, so it was a lot of construction going on. None of the players were here. It was just the coaches. I met one player that ended up working. She was working for the summer, so no one was really here. We got to see the gym, though, so that was a plus side. I think that's what won me over.
The Expo Center, a big benefit? Is it something that we talk about it, and I think we may take it for granted. It's one of the top facilities, if not the top facility in the NAI. Is it something that, as a player, you look at and say, this is all right, this is where I want to be with the new locker rooms in place now and so forth? Does it make that big of an impact for a player?
Yes, it does.
All right. Leaving the small gyms. Kalisha Johnson, team 6 and 8, has been competitive. 8 wins, and that record could be flip-flopped. I could see 12 out of these games that have just gotten away from this team. Has that become frustrating for the players in the locker room? What's the mood around the women's locker room and the fact that you've let some games get away?
It's very frustrating because we had it in our hands and we just let it slip away. So it really just makes us want to practice the next day and get better because we know we should have had it.
The team gets extra practice time in during the holiday break. Have you seen growth in this team from first semester to second?
We've become more vocal on and off the floor. I think the off the floor is what pursues the on the floor communication. So it's really been good. We've done a lot of hanging out, eating, and all that. So it's really been great on the court so far.
A little chemistry. Let's see if it pays off Thursday. Lindsey Wilson at the Expo Center, and we're inviting a large crowd out to come out and see the U-Pike women. Exciting brand of play. Kalisha Johnson has put up 39 points on 2 occasions this year, averages 19 points per game. And Kalisha, we want to wish you the best of luck Thursday against Lindsey Wilson, Cumberland U Saturday, and the rest of the year as well.
Thank you.
Thanks for being our guest on the Joanna McNamee Show. We'll return to the Bears Den, and we'll speak with Candace Porter next on the Joanna McNamee Show, presented by Appalachian Wireless. Welcome back to the Joanna McNamee Show, presented by Appalachian Wireless. I'm Andrew Joyce, your host, as we talk U-Pike women's basketball. Next up, U-Pike will host Lindsey Wilson College Thursday evening at 6 p.m. tip-off at the Expo Center. Saturday at 2, the U-Pike women will take on Cumberland University, and you're invited to check out this team, currently 6-8, and on the year, and 1-2 in the conference. We're joined now by freshman, 5'11" freshman out of Sheldon Clark High School, Candace Porter. And Candace, welcome to the Joanna McNamee Show.
Thanks for having me.
We talked basketball, of course, and we'll talk about your playing career, tradition-rich program at Sheldon Clark. But before we do that, we talk about academics. That's the most important part of a student-athlete's career. And let's talk about your academic major and what your future plans may be.
Well, my major is actually nursing, so actually I'm hoping to get me a job after college in the nursing field. So.
Absolutely, and of course a great field to go into in the healthcare field, but going to take care of some other people once you're in nursing. And of course basketball.
Yes.
Freshman, Sheldon Clark High School. Let's talk about your playing career.
I actually started when I was in 3rd grade. My dad played a lot of basketball. That's where I actually learned it from. And after that, I just knew that's what I wanted to do and that's what I wanted to play. So I went from playing as an 8th grader and starting at varsity at Sheldon Clark High School. And then I started every year since my 8th grade year. And we actually got a new coach. And then we just built our program up from there.
Sure. Sheldon Clark, a lot of tradition in the girls basketball program at Sheldon Clark, a rich tradition. It's always one of those teams on the high school level that you don't want to play because it's a team that's going to give you a challenge. You arrive at the University of Pikeville. You're a freshman. Let's talk about the transition from high school basketball to college basketball. What's that been like for Candace Porter?
The biggest struggle was actually basketball and classes together. Sure. Playing better competition, especially, all the girls, they're much bigger than what I am too. So,
right.
I mean, that's the biggest, I think.
Balancing the schedule, academic demands. Of course, for any college student, it's tough to go from high school classes to a college curriculum because it is a tougher schedule. Then you have to balance the demands of practice, games, traveling, and now heading to the conference schedule where you'll be on the road for some weekends. Was that tougher than you anticipated, or was it something that you kind of expected, that you knew it was going to be a challenge?
I thought it was going to be a challenge, and then it's much easier. I actually have stayed away from home more than what any other person probably should as a young high school, but it wasn't that bad, to be honest.
Right.
Like, I've been used to it since high school. We traveled a lot.
What about the basketball demands? How let's talk about Joanna McNamee's practices. How tough is that? Is there any a transition for you from high school to college?
Actually, not really. I think our high school coach, Darren Rice, was one of the hardest coaches, and any of my teammates would probably say the same thing. He always, I mean, we had practice almost every day,
Sure.
every holiday. I mean, not really a big transition besides playing with different people.
Very demanding.
Yeah.
Very demanding. You talk about the college game, players being your size. It's normal. You play against bigger players. Everyone on the college level, they may have been the best at their school. It's a challenge night in and night out. Has that forced you to step up your game early in your career?
It sure has, especially being a freshman. Not thinking I'd have such a big role, but it has. I've stepped up. So.
This August, when you arrived at the University of Pikeville, any thoughts in Candace Porter's mind that you'd be playing 22, 24 minutes a game?
No, not really. Once again, being a freshman and thinking all of the older girls would get more playing time than what I would. And then coming in and actually practicing and trying to play my best capabilities, and then, just adjusting to.
Earned your playing time. Earned your playing time. Averaging 8 points a game, 5 rebounds. Candace Porter, we want to wish you the best of luck Thursday against Lindsey Wilson and Saturday and the rest of the year. And thankful that you're a Bear. We saw you play in high school, and a great addition to Joanna McNamee's squad. Best of luck the rest of the year.
Thank you.
Candace Porter, our guest on the Joanna McNamee Show. We'll return and talk with the coach of the U-Pike women's program next. Welcome back in. It's the Joanna McNamee Show presented by Appalachian Wireless. We talk U-Pike women's basketball, and the Bears 6-8. Lindsey Wilson coming to the Expo Center Thursday evening, 6 p.m. tip-off for the women. Coach Mack, quick scout of Lindsey Wilson.
They play hard. They actually are one team we get to face that they have one kid with size, but generally they're all about 5'10" and under. So.
Sure.
They run like a 5-out offense, which will be challenging for our freshman post players because they're going to have to guard the perimeter and kind of step outside of their comfort zone on the defensive end. But I think on the offensive end, that can be something we can take advantage of. And
then Cumberland University comes to town on Saturday.
Right, and they're tough. They play hard and they're pretty scrappy. So that should be an up and down game. And hopefully at home we can get a little streak going.
Yeah, and finish strong. That's what the U-Pike women looking to do, is finish strong, been competitive. Finishing has been a little bit of an issue. We talk about depth. At home this weekend, we hope for a big crowd, and we want the crowd behind the U-Pike women. Let's pick up a couple of wins this weekend.
That sounds great.
Coach Joanna McNamee, head coach of our U-Pike women, as they will be in action Thursday, Lindsey Wilson, Saturday, Cumberland University, both games at the Expo Center. Be sure and join us there. Thanks to Joanna McNamee, of course, head coach of the U-Pike women, Candace Porter and Kalisha Johnson, guest on this edition of the Joanna McNamee Show, presented by Appalachian Wireless. Thanks for tuning in.